So I've touched on Trump and his impact in a past video or two, but I have yet to really dive into how Trump and his presidency fit into the overall end times picture. This is going to be the first in a number of videos that will focus on Trump's purpose in the age of Aquarius. There's so much to say about Trump and the tremendous impact his presidency is having, and in this first video I'm going to try to hit some of the highlights and attempt to begin communicating in more detail the real purpose behind Trump's presidency. But I have to tell you, in order to truly understand the real purpose of his presidency, there is a lot of background knowledge you must have, because Trump cannot be understood in a vacuum. The bigger picture of Satan's plan must come into focus before you can decipher how Trump's piece fits into the overall puzzle. I provide most of this background information in my book, The False Apocalypse, which is currently a work in progress, and if you're interested in a PDF copy of what I have so far, please see the description box for my email address. I think the Trump administration is easily the most spiritually significant presidency in American history. Now, to be clear, it's all for evil, but one of the things that makes it so significant is that it's being disguised as good and righteous. I think a lot of prophetically minded Christians tend to put Trump into one of two camps. He is either part of the New World Order machine and only helping to further its agenda, or he is fighting the New World Order's efforts and slowing down the completion of Satan's work to build a kingdom for the Antichrist. Well, here's the answer. It's neither. Although Trump is most certainly helping to usher in the Antichrist kingdom, it's not because he's part of the New World Order, but because he's radically opposed to it. Now, if you think the New World Order and the Antichrist kingdom are one and the same, well, this is part of the background knowledge you need to understand first that I cover in my book, and I touch on in other videos on my channel. The first and most important thing to understand about Trump is that he is officially the first Aquarian president, meaning he is the first president that represents what the New Age refers to as the Age of Aquarius, during which a great shift in mankind is supposed to happen, leading to great and previously unimaginable changes. To be clear, to be the first Aquarian or New Age president doesn't simply mean to be the first president who holds beliefs in line with the New Age or the occult. We've had presidents like this before. It runs much deeper than that. The New Age is much more than the sum of its parts. It's not just a compilation of beliefs in astrology, karma, reincarnation, etc. In fact, you can actively be against much of what the New Age teaches, and yet still be unknowingly participating in the New Age agenda. The New Age agenda is ultimately about ushering in a global age of peace, love, and light on the earth, as professed in Alice Bailey's great invocation. It is a false heaven on earth. But with a little digging, it becomes clear that New Age thought leaders agree that in order to bring light on the earth, darkness must first be exposed. If this concept sounds familiar to any Christians listening, well, it should, because it's rooted in Scripture. Primarily the book of Revelation, which speaks of a time in the near future when all things will be revealed, uncovered, or unveiled, and all, whether saved or not, will finally know that Jesus Christ is Lord. But with the New Age and its mystery school source, Satan has created his own counterfeit version of unveiling or revelation. In fact, the entire mystery school philosophy is a direct counterfeit of biblical teachings and concepts. I've spoken about this occult unveiling before. I've done a couple of videos on it, and I expand upon it in my book, The False Apocalypse, the name of which refers to this very concept of which I'm speaking. Revelation or unveiling is at the heart of the New Age agenda and the astrological age of Aquarius. In his yearning to be like God, Satan is staging his own revelation event on the earth, during which it will appear that all hidden things are being revealed and that evil is finally being defeated. And Trump is the very first president whose administration is actively participating in this New Age revelation event. To be clear, it's ultimately not Trump, but the spirits supporting him, and they are using Trump to begin the process of lifting the veil of secrecy and darkness, the veil which has hitherto been hiding the New World Order and its agenda. This means that yes, Trump is vehemently anti-New World Order, but this does not mean that he is on the side of good. His anti-New World Order administration will help bring in the Antichrist kingdom by catalyzing the revelation event, which will expose the New World Order so that it can be subsequently defeated, allowing for the age of light and love, the true Antichrist kingdom, to be ushered in. I had no idea the enormous significance that Trump's presidency would have on the unfolding of end times events. But what I did know back in mid-2016 was that conspiracy theory and an anti-New World Order movement would continue to grow in the coming years. This is why I began doing my What's Really Coming video series. And since that time, this is exactly what has happened. This is what Trump's presidency represents. An Aquarian movement against corruption, against the New World Order, which first requires that the New World Order be exposed. And this is what is gradually happening right before our eyes.
Proof the deep state is real in America and that you, the American people, see what is really going on. Pay attention to this poll. According to a brand new Monmouth poll, 74% of you, the American people, say you think this group of unelected bureaucrats are secretly trying to manipulate policy. And it's deeper than that. We're going to have a ton of examples that prove that you are in fact right.
One of the biggest indications that this is what's going on is a book that was published last year called Killing the Deep State: The Fight to Save President Trump, written by Jerome Corsi. Corsi is a conspiracy theorist who has worked alongside Alex Jones on his InfoWars program. And his book Killing the Deep State attempts to show how Trump is being attacked by a deeply embedded group of powerful people called the Deep State. So it's essentially saying that the New World Order is going after Trump. And what's so significant about this book is that it's been promoted by mainstream personalities, not just conspiracy theorists. Again, this is what I've been talking about since 2016, the mainstreaming of conspiracy theory as part of the global spread of Gnosticism, which is the origin of conspiracy theory. I first heard about this book through Sean Hannity, who is a very popular conservative radio and television host. He has one of the biggest audiences in the country, and he has not only promoted Corsi's book, but has had him on his program multiple times. Consequently, Hannity himself, as well as other mainstream personalities like Rush Limbaugh and Mark Levin, have been using this term deep state lately to refer to a nefarious force that is going after Trump. Prior to the last year or two, the term deep state was pretty much exclusively a term used by conspiracy theorists as an alternative way of referring to the Illuminati or New World Order. Notice here how in the Wikipedia entry for Deep State, there is a note at the top which says, "It has been requested that the title of this article be changed to Deep State, American Conspiracy Theory." But now with the Trump presidency, we have the term being used in a mainstream capacity for the first time. In 2017, Newsweek published an article addressing this very phenomenon. I found the following quote especially interesting. Deep State has become very popular as of late, largely because of Trump, but in terms in which it is used by conspiracy theorists, it has been bubbling to the surface for some time now, explained Joseph Usinki, political science professor in the University of Miami College of Arts and Sciences. The concept has always been very popular among conspiracy theorists, whether they call it a deep state or something else. If you want to take a closer look at this article, the link is in the description. So the point is that conspiracy theory is growing, just as I predicted, because evidence of the conspiracy theory narrative is being provided more and more every day, and it has grown in large part as a direct result of Trump's presidency.
He was a nice guy, actually. You like him? Oh, that's good. Alex Jones, nice guy. Go ahead.
But regardless, a lot of folks are bringing up InfoWars on the campaign trail. What I really like is he's tweeted InfoWars 3 or 4 times and plugged the T-shirt, but you know, it makes me like Trump more, obviously, that they ended up reaching out to us to have him on the show.
And the growing acknowledgement of a deep state by mainstream radio personalities is another step toward the globalization of conspiracy theory and the Gnostic worldview. And what I think is happening is that people who have never in their entire lives entertained the notion that the New World Order might actually be real are now beginning to consider it. As I said, Sean Hannity has promoted conspiracy theorist Jerome Corsi's book, Killing the Deep State, a book which contains direct references to the New World Order. The conspiracy theory narrative and books that expose the New World Order are officially getting mainstream endorsement. This is all part of the intentional revealing of the work of the Black Magicians, the Illuminati, that will ignite a spiritual awakening in mankind, bringing the new age into full expression. Expose the darkness so that humanity will embrace the light. The fact that mainstream personalities like Sean Hannity are officially recognizing the existence of a deep state, a network of powerful elites working against the will of the people, is a major development in the direction that I foresaw back in 2016. Even Rush Limbaugh is speaking out against the deep state and its agenda. And I'm willing to bet that sometime in the near future, Sean Hannity and maybe other mainstream radio hosts will stop using the watered-down term deep state and finally begin to speak out directly against the New World Order. Very soon, Sean Hannity or someone like him might be saying, "I hate to say it because it makes me sound like a conspiracy theorist, but this new world order is real. So the main purpose of Trump's presidency is to begin the process of peeling back the veil that has been covering the new world order, to begin to reveal, because the age of Aquarius is all about unveiling. Trump's presidency is revealing the reality that a network of international elites run the world and thwart freedom wherever they can, just as Alice Bailey tried to warn her followers and aspiring white magicians. If you want to think of the New World Order as cockroaches or rats that have been hiding in the walls or in the cracks, what Trump is doing is luring them out into the open for all to see. He's getting them to reveal themselves.
Andrew McCabe confessing to plotting a deep state coup against Donald Trump. I think this is big news.
Thus, Trump's presidency is the commencement of the coming Aquarian revelation, which will result in the defeat of the New World Order and the ushering in of the true Antichrist kingdom, the age of light, love, world peace, and brotherhood. Therefore, what I've been saying for the past couple years now about conspiracy theory becoming more popular and accepted, it's all happening. Conspiracy theory is becoming more mainstream, and it's all part of Satan's plan to globalize Gnosticism, which is the origin of conspiracy theory.
And let's talk a little bit about the deep state, if we can, Russ. What, in your opinion, is the deep state?
Our colleagues in the more conventional news organizations always poo-poo this stuff, but it's a legitimate concept. The concept, George, of the deep state is simply that there are interests that are not going to leave it to chance. They're not going to leave it to the popular vote, and they work to make sure that their values, their philosophy, and I would say to some extent certainly their own personal, financial and other interests are secured. And so we've had a deep state in the United States going back to the Founding Fathers. I mean, there have always been people of means who basically rigged things in their favor, and that really, to me, is what the deep state is. It's not some occult thing. It's a lot of people who come from privileged backgrounds, went to certain schools, joined certain fraternities and country clubs, and they talk to their friends. They're members of things like the Council on Foreign Relations. Maybe they go to these things like the Bilderberg meetings, and they talk, often openly, and they talk about, they talk about, policy, and what's good for the country. Well, it's usually what's good for them, and these people can get together and they can say, hey, John Kennedy, this guy's a problem, he's dangerous, whatever they want to say about him, they could say that about Bobby Kennedy. Of course, there's some discussion about, have they said that about Donald Trump? I mean, I don't know that it's a partisan thing.
And would you call them the Illuminati?
There are certain elements in these kinds of elite parts of society that they are involved with these, so-called higher knowledge things. You probably know that at the 33rd degree Masons and so forth, at the John F. Kennedy assassination, almost every major figure that appears to be connected to that was a Mason. Dealey Plaza was designed by Masons. It was a Masonic symbol. I mean, who knows what these people do to entertain themselves or to justify and create and, kind of elevate almost to a religion, self-interest. I mean, I think that's really what this comes down to. But you've got these kind of elements, certainly in the FBI, which is, by the way, just historically was just thick with members of secret societies, the CIA, the NSA, the military is very, very clannish at the higher levels. And so you've got this stuff all over the place. The State Department.
Would they also be part of the Bohemian Grove? Same type of folks?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know some people who've gone out there. This is a bunch of super rich guys sitting around naked in the woods up north of San Francisco, and they're supposed to be like pretending to worship a giant owl. It's totally wacky, but it creates this cohesion. It's just like George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, the grandfather Prescott Bush. They were all members of Skull and Bones. What is
That's
that?
Right.
They put him in a crypt. In junior high, George H.W. Bush was a member of I think it was junior high, of another organization where, he had to sleep in a graveyard. I mean, these are these kind of hazing rituals that are supposed to create bonds. They have bonds of loyalty and secrecy that they will never rat each other out.
They're bizarre.
In some ways, yeah, it's very similar to like Omerta. It's very similar to what you find in organized crime.
Well, the deep state is real. it's out there, and what's their agenda?
I would just say the deep state could be thought of as unelected or largely unelected people making decisions that affect all of us. We don't vote on it. It's not discussed by Congress. It is not necessarily adjudicated by courts. So it's an interesting kind of a bipartisan, very much an establishment kind of an entity. And these things, I think, tie into what happened to Bobby Kennedy, what happened to Martin Luther King, what happened to John F. Kennedy. They help us understand why our elections don't work very well. So you got to start looking at things like, who are the Supreme Court justices? I mean, these people themselves some of them are members of these kinds of secret societies. Potter Stewart, who was on the Supreme Court, was in Skull and Bones. And so they all know each other.
It's a club.
It is a club.
First, we have big breaking news. Hannity Watch on the deep state. This is where we begin tonight with something that should shock and alarm every single American, and I don't care if you're liberal, conservative, we were right. I have been sounding the alarm on this program with a team of investigative reporters for over 2 years. And now today, more confirmation than we ever thought we'd have that we are dealing with, yes, a deep state and what is the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal in the history of this country. A lot of revelations in here that should scare the living daylights out of anybody that believes in the rule of law and our Constitution. However, this next revelation from McCabe's interview is much, much more alarming. Take a look at this.
There were meetings at the Justice Department in which it was discussed whether the vice president and a majority of the cabinet could be brought together to remove the president of the United States under the 25th Amendment. This was not perceived to be a joke. It was also said at a previous time that the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, offered to wear a wire into the White House to record potentially incriminating conversations with the president. A statement was released after that was never serious, it was sarcastic, etc. McCabe in our interview says no. It came up more than once, and it was so serious that he took it to the lawyers at the FBI to discuss it.
Now, sadly, the high-level DOJ, FBI discussions to secretly surveil, remove a duly elected president from office, that's only a tiny tip of the iceberg in this abuse of power corruption scandal and what has been a years-long efforts to rig the system up and the will of the American people. That is the danger tonight. So while Hillary got treated to a polite interview 2 months after she had already been exonerated, well, no other individuals were ever charged. None. Trump campaign, much different treatment. Dual justice now under the law. That's a banana republic. That's not a constitutional republic. Search warrants, perjury traps, secret surveillance, pre-dawn raids, lying to FISA courts to get warrants, dozens of heavily armed agents accompanied by armored vehicles, frogmen, amphibious vehicles. For what? Now today, the witch hunt rages on, all while two actual real examples of collusion go totally and completely ignored by the deep state. And they even plotted and schemed to remove a duly elected president from office because they didn't like him or want him to win. And so far, it seems like they're getting away with it because a small group of very powerful, high-ranking, unelected officials obviously were able to yield so much power over this country, our lives, and your decisions and your choices at the ballot box. That's what happened. That's why every American needs to be concerned. The people, Hillary Clinton should have been indicted. They protected her because they wanted Trump. Trump should win 100 million to lose 100 million to zero, and they had an insurance policy. Do we now know what that insurance policy is?
Well, it was the Russia hoax via the anti-Trump dossier that was paid for by Hillary Clinton and fed to the FBI and the Department of Justice to launch this dilating investigation without evidence, without probable cause. And Americans today, especially given what we learned from Andrew McCabe, should be alarmed and disgusted at the devious and malevolent
And this
acts.
isn't rank and file. This is just a few horrible, powerful actors.
Top officials in law enforcement sought a coup d'etat to overthrow the President of the United States by misusing the Constitution.
Andy McCabe can't be trusted, but here's what's interesting, Sean. He's now the third person who has told us that Rod Rosenstein was serious about removing the president from office, serious about wearing a wire, recording the commander-in-chief in the Oval Office, serious about using the 25th Amendment to remove the guy we all elected president of the United States.
Now, remember months ago, we first reported this deep state conspiracy to oust the president, a silent coup.
They all pulled together, and they all wanted to take the president down.
This really was a proposed coup.
This is sedition. Yes. This is the attempt to sabotage a duly elected president.
And it's unprecedented in American history, this attempt to have a coup. When Americans digest what happened and the facts come out, they're going to be absolutely shocked that our own government tried to overthrow an elected president. And what you're seeing holistically is that Trump, almost as a magic wand or something, he's brought out the real progressive self, and it's hysterical. They've broken the law.
I agree with you.
They tried to stage a coup, and they have a platform that I don't think any American can possibly vote for, and it's the common denominator is they are unhinged. Something about Donald Trump pushed him over the edge.
And let us all pray for a future of peace, unity, and safety for all of our people.